Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Thanks for joining us and welcome to the Gold Standard radio show. I'm Jennifer Horn, joined today by Ken Russo.
As always, nice to be with you. Yes.
It is nice to see you, and it's always good to sit down. And I come to you, Ken, today with the question, just what in the heck is going on?
Yeah, a lot of outrageousness, you know?
A lot of stuff out there, that's for sure. What is really going on, we've got a lot of spending. We have interest rates that are going sky high. We have banks that are collapsing. We have a lot of uncertainty in the economic scene, yet we have a lot of elected officials who say, don't worry, trust us. Everything's going to be just fine.
Kind of like you would never know it at this point. Very quiet.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be focused on what's going on with President Trump, obviously.
Indictments and arraignments.
Yeah. And everything else just seems to me normal. You know, like we talked about last week, we talked about the calm before the storm. But I thought this week would be a good opportunity to talk about the basics of gold.
I love it.
And why people should be thinking about it at this time and what exactly is going on with our money. Because there's a lot of people out there, believe it or not, Jen, they really have no idea what's really gone on the last 50 years. And it's very relevant to what's happening today.
So many people have just started to wake up and look around them and go, gosh, am I ready? Am I ready to take care of my family? Am I ready if the government isn't going to be there like they said they would? Maybe even am I ready if my bank isn't there like I thought it would be? So today we're going to talk about gold, precious metals, kind of a little overview of what's going on.
If your bank was never there.
Can you imagine?
Wow, what an outrageous thought.
That's profound, isn't it?
It's got to be too wild to be true.
That must be. I know. I sound like one of those crazy conspiracy theorists.
Absolutely.
SVB Bank.
We have actually a guest this week.
I see that
Anybody could see. Yeah, now... Do you know this person? And it's not Sandra Bullock.
It does look like Sandra Bullock, but that looks like Dylan Mulvaney in front of a very nice cherry blossom.
Very nice,
tree.
yes.
Yeah.
She, her image, his image, whoever's image has
their image
graced the studio, and fantastic.
I
One
love
of the clients sent this to me.
And this is, by the way, thank you for that. And this is a good reminder right now. If you are new to the program, we do a video podcast of this. You can find it at MidasGoldGroup.com. You can always get information, by the way, on anything you hear on the program at MidasGoldGroup.com. And once again, for week number 2, this brave soul, Ken Russo, has said that you can call him all week long and talk about gold and precious metals.
Directly. Without a receptionist, without a screener, directly.
Fresh off the bathroom wall of your local bar, Ken Russo's direct line for one more week only, 480-725-0525. Write this down. If you're concerned about where things are, where you are in your retirement planning, maybe planning for your financial future, 480-725-0525 or MidasGoldGroup.com. Ken, let's go back to the beginning. Well, at least really early on. How about not in the beginning, but let's go back to 1913. That was a significant year for the country as far as our current economic outlook is today. Why is that?
Yeah, remember, this has been something that's been kind of building up for a long time. And 1913, supposedly, the Federal Reserve Bank was formed on Jekyll Island. We all know the famous story, or some people probably do. And the central bank system was kind of formulated here in the United States. And what does that mean is we have a central bank that's supposed to control the monetary system and policy and interest rates and that sort of thing. But what it basically enabled is a system to be based on printed money. 1933, President Roosevelt asked everybody to turn in their gold. Remember, at that time, there was 2 forms of money. A gold coin, like this one. This happens to be one right on the desk right here.
You always bring in something sparkly and beautiful, and that's a pretty one. How much is that coin worth right now?
That's at least a $2,200 coin.
Very nice.
At one time, the gold coin in that time period was worth $20, just like a $20 bill. both the gold coin and the $20 bill bought a man a nice suit.
Can you imagine?
Well, the gold coin today still buys a man a very nice suit, but the $20 bill obviously does not.
Yes.
So, in 1933, through executive order, the president asked everybody to turn in their gold.
Trust us. Take the dollars.
At that time, our money was still backed by gold. So they needed a certain amount of gold to own in order to print a certain amount of money.
Sounds reasonable.
They didn't have enough gold. So what did they say? Well, why don't we just ask everybody to turn in their gold? We'll pay them $20 an ounce, and then we can print more money. Sounds pretty good. We could also, a year later, put the gold back on the market for $34 and make 75% on our investment.
Bingo.
Not a bad situation.
Sure.
Not really looking out for people like you and me, looking out for their own interests. Then President Kennedy, back in the 60s, wanted to supposedly go back to a silver standard. We all know what happened to him. Probably not one person. Probably a lie.
Now, what would that have meant to go back to the silver standard?
Well, it would have slowed down the printing of what they wanted to do, the printing of money, because back in 1971, which we usually start the show with, President Nixon completely eliminated the gold standard for the benefit of us, of course, and the benefit of the dollar, to lower volatility, which is a bunch of you know what, and we're still temporarily based on a dollar. It's called fiat money, not backed by anything. So it allows the government to print as much money as they want and spend, and we're seeing that today, and it's kind of going exponential, and that's why we're really getting concerned. But what's happened, Jen, is that our paper money, because they keep printing so much of it and spending money that we don't have, continues to lose buying power.
Right. It's losing its power. Your currency isn't as valuable. That dollar is not as valuable as it once was.
Which is the opposite of what you and I just talked about with gold.
It's more valuable.
Exactly. So one product loses its buying power. Another product, keeps or holds or even gains buying power, which is gold, the only form of real money, and you and I have talked about it many times, which has remained in existence in its original form.
Sure.
Every superpower that has been based on fiat money, money that's backed by no commodity like gold, backed by nothing, like the U.S. dollar, which is now called the Federal Reserve note, says it right on your money. You can pull out a dollar bill, it says Federal Reserve note on it. It's not backed by anything except debt. And this debt now, which is at 32, 33 trillion, and it's growing up by the week, by the month. Every time they raise the debt ceiling, it gives them the excuse to raise it by trillions more. Basically, what it means is that our system is becoming more and more risky,
right?
More and more volatile. And the money that you and I have, that we save, continues to lose its value.
And that is a problem for us because we have put all of our current economic landscape is all based on the dollar, right? For many of us, our retirement is based on the dollar. Our legacy for our children is based on the dollar, and there is nothing there backing it up. And we're going to get into gold and precious metals, but if you're listening to this and you have concerns about this, you can always call 480-725-0525. That's the direct number to Ken Russo, this radio star right here that I'm looking at, 480-724-0525 or MidasSchoolGroup.com.
Yeah, and everyone's a little different, but here's the real issue. Today, we're kind of in the biggest bubble in history.
Right.
All of this fake money, all of these interest rates that were held abnormally low for over 30 years, it's now coming home to roost. So how is this going to end?
Yeah, that's the question.
And that's why we're here and why we're talking. Now, it's our opinion, not financial advice. It's our opinion that this is going to end fairly badly for either the system, for our money, for our purchasing power, or possibly both. Are they going to just keep printing and spending until the whole system collapses?
And we have to look at our leadership as well when that happens. You look around and you say, okay, used to be that Democrats or Republicans might have a reputation for being more fiscally responsible. Republicans would tell you that they were, but everybody we've elected has been spending and spending and spending. And we just saw with the most recent debt ceiling increase and the new spending bill that that Democrats and Republicans came on to create a bipartisan bill, it's still spend-a-palooza with no real reining in of the money that's going out there. So this continues, right?
Well, it has to continue, Jen. And that's the problem is we have a system right now that's just addicted to this money printing, and it's addicted to spending. So if they cut that off, everything collapses. On the other hand, if we print 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars more over the next few years, which more than likely will happen, that means that our purchasing power of our paper fiat money could lose significant value. So what can you do? And one of the things you can do is you can own an asset outside of the banking system.
Right.
Outside of a system that we all know is going to be monitored over the next 3 to 5 years.
Outside of the crazy government, right?
Absolutely. So to take some of our assets and convert it into gold, to take some of our IRAs, you may have hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in the banking system or in the markets. In our opinion, it makes absolutely no sense to be taking on that kind of a risk right now. Our opinion is you should be taking some of those funds, paper funds, converting it to hard, tangible money, like this gold coin right here that you could hold on to. So no matter what happens with the system, if it's frozen, if it locks up, if it crashes, whatever, at least you have some of your assets outside of the system. And in our opinion, Jen, that's very, very smart at this point and actually a no-brainer. Yeah,
you don't want to rely on the dollar holding its value, the value that it has today. You don't want to have to rely on the fact that the banks are going to be there to give you your money when you need it. In fact, we talked about one of your customers at Midas Gold who tried to go and get $20s or $100 bills.
They tried to get $10,000 in hundreds, and they said, "Sir, we don't have enough."
Yeah.
So I mean, it's fractional banking. Our money is not all there. These banks are all underwater on their investments. So is the government. It's a bad situation. Who knows how long it's going to take to play out? It makes no sense to take on all that risk.
And that's why it's something to consider to have real currency, gold and precious metals in your possession, aside and outside of the government. Something you hold on to, something you can control. You're interested in more information,
and
check out.
Something that's private too, Jen.
Something that's private, exactly. Yes. Keep Big Brother out of that, right?
Yeah, at least some of it, for sure.
480-725-0525, 480-725-0525, MidasGoldGroup.com. The Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn continues.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. I'm Jennifer Horn. Ken Russo, right there with all of the great information. Ken Russo is with Midas Gold Group. If you were looking to add gold or precious metals to your investment portfolio, don't wait for another crisis. Don't wait for something else, the other shoe to drop. Yeah. Call now, 480-725-0525. And by the way, guys, that is Ken's direct line. He's crazy. He's giving away his direct phone number. Just a little
all
crazy.
Nice people listen to us, Jen. These are good people, good patriots from around the United States. They just want to protect their money. They want to hedge their bets, and we're here to assist them if they want help.
Yeah.
If they don't want help, don't call.
480-725-0525. What's great about Midas Gold Group is they are veteran-owned. They are customer service first. When you call Ken, you can talk to him directly. Ask him the questions that you need to find out if gold and precious metals are right for you.
Yeah,
480-725. It absolutely is. 0525 480-725-0525. MidasGoldGroup.com. Now, we kind of set up what's happening, where we came from, how we are with the economy right now. Last week, we were talking about the calm before the storm, this quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier in the year, we had 3 banks collapse. We haven't seen this in a long time in our country, and we were told that the government wasn't going to bail them out. Then they did bail them out.
Yeah, more assets in those banks than the financial crisis of 2008.
It's incredible.
Just think about that.
Think about that. And, you know, I was listening to an interview with Sean Hannity and Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. And he was crowing about
I don't like either one of them.
I got a problem with that Gavin Newsom, and he's a smooth talker. You got to watch out. But he was crowing about California's economic achievements and what a success story we are. And with interest rates going up, which is happening because inflation was so high, they want to drop inflation down, they raise the interest rates. A lot of these banks were not planning for all of that. And away they went, which should tell you.
Which is crazy, too, because that's what Janet Yellen was telling them to do.
Right.
Invest your money in treasuries. It's the safest place. Well, that just goes to show you the record of people like that and, the Fed. They're always wrong. And what else are they going to say? Who's going to buy our debt? Remember, Jen, foreign countries, we were so reliant on foreign countries buying our debt. Then all of a sudden they said, well, the U.S. debt is toxic. We don't want any. Okay. Now who's going to buy it? Well, then the Fed decided, well, we can buy it all. And back in 2020, 2019, I think the Federal Reserve bought over 50% of the U.S. bonds, and they're just sitting on their balance sheet with over a $1 trillion loss on those. That's real nice. I wish I could just have a balance sheet and just put everything that isn't working and say, yeah, sweetie, it's just on the balance sheet.
Just
Don't
move it
worry
onto the
about
balance sheet.
Yeah.
No problem.
But this is the real world. And then the banks, when interest rates were abnormally low, like it really makes a lot of sense to buy an interest rate product when interest rates are like 0 or 1%, right? That's a real lot of money. Yeah, let's take on all that risk and do it. Now, all the banks have those losers' investments on their balance sheet. So when people start taking money out of the system and when they start moving it around because everybody has an app or everybody can just do it electronically, these banks could become insolvent in a day. Actually, those banks that failed, none of them were on the FDIC watch list. None of them.
I want you to underscore this because you told me this last week, Ken, and I think it is stunning. The 3 banks that collapsed in this country, the beginning of the year, none of them on the watch list, but how many are on the watch list right now?
Well, they said, the FDIC, and they said it's going to be a real doozy second quarter report because remember, those banks failed in the middle of March. So that's the end of the first quarter. So all of these numbers were not really reflected in the banking numbers. They said there could be up to 600 banks that are in a very bad situation right now with ratios and debt and losses and that sort of thing. Well, whether if it's 600 or 6, in my opinion, it's too many. In my opinion, it's just too risky of a system to say, hey, I'm comfortable leaving all of my money in that type of a system. What if you're a person like yourself?
I am a person.
And you're professional like yourself.
I am professional sometimes.
And semi-wealthy.
Oh, yes. I'm rolling in dough.
Why would you keep hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, millions of dollars in an IRA or in some sort of paper assets where you have no privacy? The volatility is sky high. The safety, we all know the safety. I mean, what if there's a hack? What if there's an EMP? What if something happens? They're like, we're really not sure what happened. We're not really sure where the money went. We're going to have to check into this. Oh, great. Well, your money could be tied up for a very, very long time, or it may not even just be there. That's not even mentioning, like before we talked about our money just losing value.
Yeah.
And I hope people realize, and this is just a statistic, of course, our paper money, our dollar, has lost 80% of its buying power over the last 20 years versus gold. 80%. And it's lost 97% of its value against gold since we changed and eliminated the gold standard in 1971. So if you look at gold as money versus holding it just as paper, and we're not talking about a speculative investment here. Gold shouldn't be thought about as an investment or even as a speculation it should be thought of as money.
As a hedge and currency that you can hold in your possession, right?
Am I going to hold paper money in an account which is worth this much? Or would I rather and compare it to holding it in gold? If you held $100,000 in your bank account 20 years ago, that would be worth maybe $30,000 or $40,000 today of buying power. Crazy. If you held $100,000 worth of gold 20 years ago in your bank account or in your own possession, in your gun safe, or whatever, that would be worth $400,000 or $500,000.
Your love and life.
It's a big difference.
Yes, it is.
Now, I'm not talking about the best technology stock. I'm not talking about a best crypto. I'm talking about stuff that every single American can do.
Safe and secure and easy to understand. And when we talk about, and nobody wants to think about this, I don't want it to be true, but if, God forbid, something happens and there is a collapse, you have currency at home in your safe if you need money to take care of yourself or your family.
We've been lied to a lot, Jen.
Yeah, we have.
The government lies. Did they lie about 9/11? Who knows? Did they lie about JFK assassination? Who knows? Did they lie about the man on the moon? Who knows? Did they lie about Benghazi? Who knows? They're lying to us. These are the same people that are lying to us, saying that our money is strong and it's safe.
Right.
And I'm not willing to risk everything that I have, and I don't think anybody who's listening to this should either. It would not hurt to hedge your bets. It would not hurt to diversify.
Yep.
Let's see what happens over the next 5 or 10 years with this big bubble that we have. Hide out in a safe place, and then we can see what's going on. But I just think it's absolutely necessary for people to play some defense right now, hedge their bets, and there's no other asset, in our opinion, right now that's better than gold and silver, physical gold and silver, just like this.
And it always is a good idea to have a plan B, right? We see
Absolutely.
This government operating. I don't care who's in charge at this point.
What's their plan?
You need a backup, and you need to make sure that you have that personal responsibility.
What's the government's plan to everything that's going on?
Spend more money.
Yeah, we're going to print more money out of thin air.
Print it and spend it. Exactly right. So here's what you can do. You're listening to the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. Want you to call Ken Russo this week if you have questions about any of this. You're interested in pursuing gold and precious metals. 480-725-0525. These are private transactions. The government can't track you. They can't watch you. You can put this in your safe at home. 480-725-0525. Safety and security is key. If you're looking for that, 480-725-0525. You can always check out the website, MidasGoldGroup.com. MidasGoldGroup.com. And I have to ask you kind of maybe a dumb question quickly here in our last couple minutes.
No such thing as dumb questions.
When I was growing up and my parents were teaching me about keeping my money, and putting it in accounts, savings accounts, a CD, whatever it was that I was doing at the time, they always make sure you go to an institution that's got FDIC backing. That doesn't matter so much anymore if you can't trust the FDIC to actually have the money for you, right? And it only is good up to $250,000. I'm not saying only because that's a lot of money, but if you start accumulating wealth, you need to make sure that your money's protected. What about FDIC insured institutions?
Well, not federal, and $12 trillion worth of deposits out there, and FDIC has about $120 billion of assets. So
wow.
How is that balanced at all?
How can they make it work?
They can't. It's a sham. So, I mean, what I would say is be your own bank.
Right.
Create your own gold vault. Pull some money out of the system. Don't believe these lies. It's all nonsense. It's to convince you to keep your money in the banking system. We all see what happens when people pull it out. But it's our money. We should be able to do what we want with it.
Yep.
And in my opinion, a significant portion of that in such a dangerous market, because of our politicians and our bankers, should be in gold.
And that might mean putting a little bit in gold. You can move some things around. And to do that, you should call Midas Gold Group. They've got offices in Arizona and in California. You can go and see them, or from anywhere. You can call Ken directly at 480-725-0525. That's his direct line. Call him this week and say hello. 480-725-0525. Always check out MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, or call Ken this week directly on his private line, 480-725-0525. Thanks for listening to The Gold Standard with Jennifer Horn and Ken Russo.
Yes.